about that. See, I'm a very busy person. Sometimes I just can't sit and paint for hours on end like I would like to. But anyway, okay, back to the skin. I'm using see, these colors are not marked, so I have no idea. It's almost like a coral color's what I'm using, you know, for the deepest shadow. Yep, that's too dark. What I was saying as far as about time, probably if I just done this by myself and didn't film myself and trying to explain what I'm doing, I could probably paint this 4x6 from start to finish. I don't know. If I had to take a guess, maybe between 8 and 12 hours, I guess. And it's not mainly because that reason is because I can't consistently sit and work on a painting, and that's why I generally kind of work on 2 or 3 at a time. I'm kind of going back over that a touch with white because I don't want her to look like she's been slapped. Oh, see, that's turning out real nice. And two, you know what I do? I multitask. I don't like to sit in silence. When I'm painting, I would probably get done a whole lot faster if nothing, you know, was distracting me or whatever. But I love to sit and listen to audiobooks, not necessarily music, when I'm painting. But I do like to listen to audiobooks. And that might sometimes tend to slow me down because I'm listening to the stories and, you know, painting at the same time. But that's just me. Okay. Now, I'm going to try this. See, I try stuff. I'm going to get just a touch. Now I'll go with this yellow since it's a little bit lighter. Tone it down a little bit with the white. Just to kind of make maybe a small glow to the skin. And if I end up not liking it, all I have to do is get my white acrylic paint and water it down and go back over it. It makes a nice glow, and it might be hard to see on the computer. Now don't forget, if you start using a watercolor palette like that and you're using white acrylic paint, always wash your brush before you stick it back in that watercolor. You'll ruin it. Ooh, that is really making a very nice look. Because if you'll look at your skin, it's got all kinds of colors in it. That's nice. And two, once it's completely dry, I always put a glossy varnish over it because I like how that looks and it seals the paints in there. But you got to be careful with that watercolor on there, because if it gets too wet, it'll start running. Okay. Now, I'm just taking the solid white. I'm going to have to get a little bit more. It got dry on me. I'm also going to get a smaller brush because I'm fixing... I'm going to have to go back in here and lift some of that because there's a line there that's getting on my nerves. So I got a little bit of the white acrylic. Oh, see? It's watered down, and I'm using my finger, which you could use, you know, tissue paper if you wanted. I'm just so used to doing it this way, I don't pay any attention to it anymore. Okay. That's why I prefer that Yes canvas, because it doesn't have a texture to it much, and I like working on that bristle paper because it doesn't have a texture either. Okay, I am going to get the lightest brown in that watercolor palette and kind of dab it in here just a little bit in the darker places. Which I think would be a little bit darker. Okay, just a touch. I'm going to give her just a touch of blush, and I'm going to use this pink color that's on this palette, but I do kind of water it down. See? Now, I don't like it that yeah, there I go. Okay, see, I've got too much of it on my brush, so I'm coming over here with the white. I could always pick it up, but that comes with practice. And I'm going to put a little bit of highlight right there in her lip. Because see, she's kind of hiding behind those flowers, so I don't want to lose that effect. Okay. Now, let me get a smaller brush. This is a 0 liner, I guess. I'm getting the darkest blue in that palette of watercolor. Putting the darkest part up next to the eyelashes. I'm going to go ahead and color that one completely dark because she's kind of shaded. I'm getting just a touch of white acrylic on my brush to make it a little bit light on this side. And here sometimes this is what I do to make the color flow. I just ever so slightly, let me see how that'll work. I'll put a little touch of that blue in other places. You know, like around the outline or something like that. But be careful. Okay, now I'm just going to put. I've cleaned my brush real good, and see, you can, even though I've just dipped a little bitty brush in that water a couple of times, that water is already dirty. So if your water's dirty, you need to get a clean water. I'll be right back. Okay. Got some clean water. I should have had an extra spare one right here, but I didn't. Okay. Now, I'm getting just plain white, clean brush. No, excuse me. I'm going to dip in that very first pink that I started using here. Just slightly. Shading in the eyes. Maybe a little darker right here in the corner. Then I get the solid white. And just kind of dab it in there just a little bit. Also do it here. Ever so lightly. Maybe a tip on the nose. On the lip. Tip of the ear. Maybe here. A little there. Maybe a little here. Here. Okay, now I let that dry and then go back over it with a couple dots. That is the only time I leave it stark white. I'll probably even go back over that again with watercolor. Just a dab or two in the eyes. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I always, wait, I see a spot I missed. See this right here, it started smudging. Okay. Y'all know me, I like the dark outline in my paintings. That's just my preference. You wouldn't have to if you didn't want to. Sometimes I use black acrylic paint. Sometimes I just use watercolor. The black watercolor, and I make it as, I dip it and make it as dry as I can get it. With a very thin very thin. But I'll probably use acrylic on this one, I'm just saying. I mean, I try to make it as thin as a pencil line in some places. So that way it's kind of an illusion. And that's why I sometimes like using watercolor, because it does create an illusion more than acrylic, because sometimes acrylic, it's hard to get it thin, but that's why I like using the watercolor to re-outline. Because I can get it thin. I need to put that there. That's like her eyebrow crease. Okay, I'm going to outline. And then a lot of times after I outline, I go ahead and clean up places. You know, if I have to do it with a little bit of white or whatever. Sometimes I even, you know, use a little watercolor to, oh, sorry. To make thicker lines on, like, the outside, see, of that flower. And I put a few in the middle. And that's what I like about watercolor, because sometimes it kind of fades into it and you can't tell that I've done that, but it still gives me the effect I want, because I like sharp edges. That is just me, and I can't help that. A lot of people don't like that, but that is just my technique. And these are just in her wings. That is just how I do things. Sometimes with watercolor you can just go over it a little bit and it gives you that dark shade you're wanting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish outlining her. Maybe listen to a little bit of an audiobook. It'll take me a while, because I take my time when I'm doing that. So I'll come back and then I'll come back and I'm going to, I call them shines, that I put. Now I will tell you this little secret. I use the watercolor to put the eyelashes on. So it like creates a shadow, almost a shadow. And then I go back over that with a real glossy black acrylic paint with the same brush. And it makes it look real nice. But I'm going to do all that, and then I will come back and I'll show you how I'm going to finish it up, and then I'll be done. Thanks for watching. I'll be back.